right standards, right education system.
I'm the former Frank Key.
Of the Northwest Pass, we really need somebody different.
Your career, you're used to winning. Life, it was everything to us.
7 or 8 weeks of two-a-days.
They really made me appreciate
We're allowed to win.
he was coming in and we'd be shooting the whole time.
Let's go back real quick to the Enid Walk of Fame. Of course, we have training in confined space.
Legitimate, maybe to know a little more.
A good safety tip on that, Steve.
Putting a hat on and getting out there and doing the job.
The television model that you watched growing up.
Houston, this is the International Space Station.
City Connections begins right now.
Hello again. Welcome to City Connections. I'm Steve Kime with the City of Enid. My very special guest came all the way from Oklahoma City to be with us today, and he is the Commissioner of Public Safety. And if I don't have that title right, we'll make sure I have it right in a moment. I want to share with you the impressive bio of Rusty Rhoades. Rusty was appointed by Governor Mary Fallin as Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety and Cabinet Secretary for Safety and Security in November of 2017. He has served with the Department of Public Safety for give or take 28 years in a variety of assignments. Commissioner Rhoades began his career with the Oklahoma Capitol Patrol as a patrolman assigned to the Governor's Mansion, and that was back in 1989. He graduated from the 46th Oklahoma Highway Patrol Academy in 1991. In addition, he is a graduate of the FBI National Academy Class number 230 in 2007. So welcome to the Enid Television Network studios, Commissioner Rusty Rhoades.
Steve, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. We're just thrilled to have you, and pressure's on. You've had some predecessors here with you, but no, we are very honored that you took time to be with us here in Enid, Oklahoma today.
Well, thank you. It's a long list. I've seen some of the folks that you've had here, so it's certainly an honor for me. Thank you.
Well, the title of being on Governor Fallin's cabinet is impressive, and then the title of Commissioner of Department of Public Safety. And I think oftentimes that the people associate public safety strictly OHP, Oklahoma Highway Patrol. But can you just kind of share with us what the Department of Public Safety is all about? I think there's the driver's license group or department. There's a long list. Can you share that list with us?
Well, and you're exactly right. It's much more expansive than I think people ever realize. I tell you, once I took this position, I learned even more. Obviously, I come from the Highway Patrol side, the most recognizable side of DPS. Yeah. But when you look at the big picture, driver's license is probably the most recognizable on our non-commissioned civilian side. Of course, our driver's license division issues driver's license, ID cards, CDLs, and in 2020, Real ID to every citizen in the state of Oklahoma that has that type of document. Beyond that, we have our records management division, which touches every collision report in the state of Oklahoma. That's the repository for that document. They handle all the motor vehicle records, people's driving records. Then, of course, we have a ton of different support divisions. We have our HR, which handles the Highway Patrol and the civilian side of the house. And let me say that the total number of employees we have is almost 1,400. And it's almost a 50-50 split between troopers and the civilian side. So going on the DPS side, the support services, the transportation division, the building maintenance division for all of our troop headquarters statewide, our legal division, our driver compliance division. So it's very expansive, and they all provide a necessary service to the people of the state.
I'm glad you mentioned that about the driver's license. I looked the other day, and my license is due this year to get renewed, so I better make a visual reminder somewhere to do that. By the way, if I let my license lapse, how much trouble am I in? Do I have to retake everything? What happens?
You don't.
Oh, okay.
There is a grace period where you can just go in and it can be expired. Now, there still can be enforcement action on the side of the road, so you want to be careful with that, but there's a little leeway on the administrative side.
I'm writing a note today, Steve, getting that driver's license renewed. Well, Commissioner, let's go back to the beginning. Tell us about what was your draw or the beginning interest in law enforcement?
You know, and it goes back to very early childhood. My father was a police officer. He retired as a captain from Yukon Police Department. My mother was a federal employee. She worked first at Tinker Air Force Base, and then ultimately with the Internal Revenue Service as an executive assistant. So I come from a family of servitude, if you will, and was always taught growing up that it was our role as citizens of the state and of this country that it's our job to serve people and to make their lives better. So I go back I've actually, my mother still has a copy of my kindergarten report card, and it says, I want to be a blank when you grow up. And mine says, I want to be a policeman. So time goes, and when I was about 11 or 12 years old is when I met my first state trooper. My dad would take us out in the summertime when we were home from school at night and have coffee with his police officers that he was over on that shift. And I remember one night we're at a coffee shop, it's probably 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm feeling pretty cool, hanging around a lot of police officers, and 2 state troopers walk in, and the place stopped. Everybody wanted to talk to the trooper. They came in, I recall they still had their hats on when they came in. Their uniforms were tight, well tailored, they were in great physical condition, their brass was polished, their boots were shiny. I knew right then when I was 11 or 12 years old that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be one of those guys. There was something special about it, something different. And I'm always cautious, with that being in city law enforcement, I have great respect for anybody in the law enforcement community and will always support that. But I just knew being a state trooper is what was for me.
That's a great story, and thank you for sharing that. Well, here we are in Enid, Oklahoma, Garfield County. We're real close to the big city of Billings, Oklahoma, and this Enid community has a real strong connection to George Bellman and also Henry Bellman. And doing some research for our visit today, I read about a story that you had a unique experience with Governor Bellman at the time. You're at the Capitol. You're the patrol officer, I guess, at the Capitol, and I guess Henry was trying to leave, and you're trying to encourage him not to because of security. Why don't you tell us that story, if you could?
Well, and your word's unique. I think my word's probably terrifying. Having just spoken of how my lifelong goal was to be a state trooper, when I was at the governor's mansion as a Capitol patrolman, I was 21. At that time, you had to be 23 to be a state trooper. So I'd gotten a job with DPS, with Capitol Patrol, kind of a stepping stone. And I knew I had to do everything right. My career, was in front of me as a young 21-year-old man. And as most people know, the Bellmans were very low-key, very humble people. Governor Bellman wasn't real big on having his security folks around. So on Sundays, it was usually just one Capitol patrolman was there on shift, and it was me at the mansion that day. And I saw on one of the cameras the governor was walking towards the west gate, heading towards the Capitol. So I double timed out there and said, Governor, let me go get the car for you, and wherever you need to go, I'll take you. And he said, no, son. He said, it's a nice day. I want to walk to the Capitol. Well, at that time, if you recall, back in the late 80s, a lot of the renovations hadn't happened in that part of town. It was a rough part of town.
Sure.
It wasn't uncommon for us to hear gunshots around the state capitol and the governor's mansion at night. So I knew he was walking into a bad neighborhood. He had to cross a large parking lot in Lincoln Boulevard to get to his Capitol office. And I kind of explained that to him very quickly. And he looked down at me and he said, son, he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, I survived World War II. He said, I'm pretty sure I can survive that parking lot. So I couldn't argue with the man.
Yeah.
So I went back, and the next 2 hours were absolutely terrifying, watching my career flash in front of my eyes. But he made it back, and here I sit today.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's a great story. We appreciate you sharing that because we have great admiration for George and Henry Bellman, both World War II veterans, decorated veterans, and we just appreciate you sharing that story. Let's talk about assignments across the state or in the Oklahoma City area. From the Capitol Patrol, you join a couple of years later, you're in the academy class, you graduate, and then off you go. So tell us about some of your assignments.
Well, and my career's been very blessed. I would have never dreamed it would turn out how it did. So my first assignment out of patrol school was in northeastern Oklahoma, out of Enid headquarters. I was assigned to Mace County, which is Pryor, Locust Grove. I actually lived in Shodo, a town I'd never heard of.
So you know all about Route 66.
I know about it. And so my wife and I moved up there. I was in that assignment for just over a year, transferred back home, if you will, to Oklahoma City, and worked at Troop A Metro. A couple years after that, I was assigned to the governor's security detail as one of David Walters' bodyguards. Now, at the time, by policy, I didn't have enough time on. We had a policy you had to have 5 years on, but we had a trooper that just had to get out, had some family issues to take care of. So they needed someone to come in quick that knew the assignment. And they figured at least I knew where the governor's mansion was. So they gave me that assignment. So I was there for the last year of David Walters' administration. Went on from there back to Oklahoma City. Then I was sent to the FBI Gang and Violent Crimes Task Force in a quasi-undercover role. We focused on gang activity in Oklahoma City. And anyone that had a violent felony warrant, we went after. I was on that assignment for a couple of years, came back to the patrol side in auto theft this time. Well, shortly after that, 9/11 occurred. And within 2 weeks of 9/11, I was reassigned to the FBI on the Joint Terrorism Task Force, which at the time had really primarily focused on domestic terrorism. But of course, 9/11 changed the FBI's view of the world, changed everybody's view of the world. So I was assigned over there and reported to the new Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security, which was brought up to speed pretty quickly as well. A lot of my duties in there primarily involved the intelligence side, the communication side with our local communities. As you know, we have critical infrastructure throughout the state of Oklahoma. So it was my job to finally someone identify all of our critical infrastructure, give it a score, if you will, and then figure out the way with the local communities to best harden those facilities. I was promoted to lieutenant while there and assigned to the governor, or to the state capitol, excuse me. And that was right about the time they were bringing in all the weapon screening posts. That was all the post 9/11 security measures. Sure. So I had oversight of that. Within a couple of years, I was promoted to captain at the state capitol. After about 6-8 months, I was reassigned to the commissioner's office as a legislative liaison. I was there for I think 6 or 7 sessions. While there, I was promoted to major. I finally got out of that assignment and got to go do real highway patrol work again, and I was assigned to field troops. And in different times, as a zone commander, which on the highway patrol is responsible for 3 to 4 different field troops, kind of a geographical block of the state. And so basically from there, I've had the turnpikes as one command, and then I've had everything west of I-35 at different times under my command as a zone commander. And I actually had Enid headquarters, Kime, Clinton, and Altus headquarters under my command when the governor appointed me to this position.
Commissioner, from time to time when we have special guests visit us here at the Enid Television Network studio, and then they kind of share their bio, they share their experiences of how they got from point A to point B and all of those assignments. It leads me to the question to ask you, how has all of those experiences and all those assignments prepared you to be the Commissioner of Public Safety today?
I couldn't imagine having this position without having had those assignments. Right. Our previous commissioners, like I said, my career's been unique, if not very blessed. And the different experiences, the relationships, the opportunities I've had throughout my career have all blended into this one assignment. As the legislative liaison, I had a good visual on our civilian side of the house. With the FBI, I had 4 years in FBI office space. That gave me relationships and a vision on how the federal agencies work and those partnerships. So in culmination, bringing all that together, I think the good Lord had a plan, because the career was so unique and it culminated in this. So again, I'm very blessed.
I think it's important to share all those experiences to get to this point, because you just didn't wake up one day and said, okay, I get to do this. You know, I'm sure the entertainer that said it took him a lifetime to get discovered or something
Exactly.
like that, or to have his #1 hit. Our special guest, and thank you for joining us today on City Connections. Our special guest is the Commissioner of Public Safety for the state of Oklahoma, also serves on the cabinet with Governor Mary Fallin, and our guest is Commissioner Rusty Rhoades. Rusty, you graduated from the Patrol Academy back in 1991. My question is, to fast forward to 2018, 2019, how different is the training and the academy from when you started to current day? Is there a big difference?
You know, and that's a great question. And the answer is yes and no. It's not different in the sense that the Highway Patrol has a foundation of core values, honor, integrity, respect, professionalism. That is our base, our foundation. So that's always going to be part of our academy. The mission is, for the most part, the same. We're still training, firearms. We're training custody and control and self-defense, driving, legal, all the things that encompass being a state trooper. But it is different in the sense that technology, it being what it is today.
Sure.
Back when I came on, nobody carried cell phones. Now these young troopers have computers in their cars. They don't write tickets anymore. They're computer generated. So the technology has changed some of it, and techniques on the different disciplines. Driving has changed some. When I went through, we didn't have the TVI, or what a lot of people know as a pit maneuver, that we now train that at our Burns Flat facility. Shooting techniques have changed. When I went through, we actually had one of Chuck Norris's black belts come and train us on self-defense. And my wife always teases me about this. It was Tang Soo Do is what Chuck Norris literally invented, as we were told, to be able to defeat Bruce Lee. So we were taught in that discipline. And then as the evolution came, MMA came to be very popular. Right. We sent guys out to California to become certified in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, a lot of the ground fighting techniques. And so now I see it's kind of a blend of the two. So we change with the times on how we train the different disciplines, but the disciplines will always be the same.
We've been very blessed here at the ETN studios to have a variety of governors. Governor Keating's been here and Governor Walters. And we've talked even with George Nye about their days and their leadership role as governor. And since you were the governor's security detail, and I guess that was during the David Walters day, can you kind of tell us what that role was all about? If we had a little insight, and when the governors came here, we got a little bit of an insight into their world as governor. But on the security detail, what can you tell us what that's all about?
That may be one of the most unique details in the law enforcement industry, if you will. Of course, we do it a little different from the Secret Service, in that Secret Service has say over movements of the president. Here in Oklahoma, as the governor's executive detail, he doesn't necessarily have to listen to us. We can give our suggestions and our thoughts on how we should do something. But it's unique in the sense that you never think about spending all day with someone as they go through their normal life, when your whole focus is to keep them safe. So, and especially for me as a young trooper coming out of the field in such a aggressive troop, if you will, in Troop A, Oklahoma City Metro, we were always working, always hopping, to being with the governor of Oklahoma, having to slow our pace, and again, be with him, eating dinner at the same time. We were living someone else's life with them. So it was a really unique experience. I know with Governor Walters, we'd have to be at the mansion at 5 o'clock in the morning. We would go run with him at the downtown Y. Then the day would start. And that day could last till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. He was living his normal life as the governor of Oklahoma. Sure. So those relationships, actually, it gave me a lot of confidence as I went throughout the rest of my career. Being around the governor, the first lady, and everyone that they're around, and understanding that I too could fit into that environment, in my role. So it gives us a lot of confidence. Our guys, talk about things changing in the academy. Our guys have evolved in how they protect the governor. So it's very eye-opening and probably a maturing assignment, if you will.
We visited just a few weeks ago at the state capitol. You were there for some meetings and so forth. Can you kind of give us, open the window a little bit to kind of share with you a day in the life of Commissioner Rhoades?
Well, and
you were at the Capitol, and
right.
You had different, and I'm sure you had a variety of things to do that particular day. Can you kind of give us a normal day, if there's such a thing?
Well, and if there is such a thing, and I'll tell you, I'm really finding that process myself and finding that groove. Obviously, there's always a stack of something on my desk that has to have my name on it. So
people want your autograph, is that right?
Well, because that way they can pay for things when they get my autograph on it.
Okay.
I'm responsible as a cabinet secretary for all the other agencies for their freeze exemptions, so I want to make sure I stay on top of those things so they can keep their manpower where they need it to be. I need to make sure our budget is tracking like it should. So I spend a lot of time with our budget folks, initially learning it, now really staying on top of our budget and our processes there. I have a very close relationship with the chief of the patrol, and I have it structured in a kind of a unique way. I have the chief of the patrol that obviously handles the uniform side of the house, and I have a chief of staff who's actually retired from the patrol, acting as the lead over the civilian side of the house, and then they'll bring me any issues, concerns, things we need to get accomplished. I do like to get out, so coming up here is a great trip. During session, obviously, I'm spending quite a bit of time at the Capitol, primarily on the budget, to ensure that the members of the legislature understand our needs and understand that I understand what our needs are. So the days have gotten longer. It's not, from when I was a major, it's kind of an 8 to 9 hour day. My average day is probably 10, 11 hours, but that's okay. I feel such a great sense of responsibility to every employee and every citizen of this state. So I stay busy, that's for sure.
With all the different departments reporting to or under the umbrella of the Department of Public Safety, that was leading me to say I'm sure it's not 8 to 5, it's more 24/7, because even at 1 o'clock in the morning you're on the job if
Absolutely.
That's the case. Our special guest today on City Connections, the Commissioner of Public Safety for the state of Oklahoma, Rusty Rhoades. I'm going to ask Rusty what the Oklahoma Highway Patrol Call of Honor is, and we'll do that right after this short break. Thanks for being with us today on City Connections. We'll be right back. Welcome back to City Connections. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate you spending time with us. And I'm just so excited to have our special guest with us, Commissioner of Public Safety for the state of Oklahoma, Rusty Rhoades. Rusty, or Commissioner, forgive me. I want to give you all the respect and all that you deserve. As Commissioner, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol has a Call of Honor. Can you share with us what that's all about?
You know, the Call of Honor is it's our moral compass. Okay. I actually view it as kind of it's an older document, if you will. I've always viewed it as kind of the Oklahoma standard memorialized before anyone really said those words. It's the true Oklahoma way. It's the true Highway Patrol way. It guides us on how to treat people. It even says in there that we will be willing as state troopers to lay down our life if need be to protect someone. So it's our moral guide. And I'll tell you, we even use it on the patrol side as an operational guide, if you will. We have several policies, behavioral based, that refer back to the Call of Honor. So any violation of that is by definition a violation of a policy. So it's something we take very serious. Like I said, it's our foundation, if you will, to guide us as to who we are and how we act.
Well, it's an impressive name, and probably the similarity in the corporate world or in city government world is the code of ethics.
Right.
You know, you're operating with the code of ethics in the way that you carry yourself and the work that you do. Recently, you'll hear different emphasis about the DUI programs, the checkpoints. I think that's what it's technically called. In your opinion as Commissioner, how is Oklahoma doing with, I guess, controlling DUI? I'm not sure controlling is the right word, but how are we doing as a state?
I'll tell you, the enforcement approach and the education approach go hand in hand. On the education side, Mr. Harris with Highway Safety has done an amazing job. I'm sure you have seen it and will continue to see some of the PSAs that they've generated out. I think the last one that came out was Thank You, Sean.
Yes.
Related to the last holiday. So he does an amazing job with that. Of course, the highway safety budget is primarily federal grant dollars, so we're able to distribute those monies out to the field for the DUI checkpoints that you spoke of, for extra DUI shifts for agencies, not just the Highway Patrol, but for the Enid Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, whoever it may be that wants to be more engaged and more involved. I've actually got 7 troopers assigned to that program, and they travel statewide and help coordinate these public safety events and educational opportunities. So to say, and you kind of hit it on the head, to say that we've got control of it is unfortunately maybe a stretch, but I kind of can assure you that the efforts are there and will continue to be there. And from early in my career to now, I do see a huge difference. Early in my career, we would kind of sit up at the local hot spots as troopers and wait for the drunks to show up. Now we're using some real-time data. We can tie previous DUIs for prosecution purposes. Again, when I was a young trooper, we could arrest a guy that had 10, 11, 12 DUIs, but never had one filed as a felony because of the courts that they were filed in. We now have a database that ties those together. The courts can see that and now get to that felony point on second and subsequent very quickly. So the approach is there, the education is there, and we'll stay on top of it. I hope someday that we can totally eradicate it and put us out of a job. But until we do, we're going to continue what we're doing.
Since we're talking about safety behind the wheel, how are we doing with the texting and driving? You know,
and I tell you, I have to say I'm pleased.
Because I think a law went into effect last November, I think, about don't do it. And don't do it because there is a law. Kind of
exactly. And you know, and as you know, from 2, 3, 4 years ago, that law has strengthened. It started off as basically a driving while distracted law, which is illegal anyway. But then we were so concerned, and we're starting to see a little uptick of especially the teens and the texting and the collisions involved there. So the legislature took it even more serious and now made it illegal to do so. Of course, we still see it driving down the road. Me driving an unmarked vehicle, folks don't know that I'm a state trooper, so I'll see it and I'll make contact with them even to this day. So it's getting better. I think once folks really understand the tragedies that can occur from a simple text message, and it doesn't take a lot of speed to travel a long distance. In 2 or 3 seconds, depending on your speed, someone could travel a football field's worth of distance. Right. So I think as we continue the education, and there's several different entities that are involved in that. So again, the laws are in place, the enforcement's in place, and again, that's something that we will aggressively address.
In our visit today, you've been very open and gracious with sharing information about your role as Commissioner of Public Safety and your background and all the assignments you had. The question is, what would be, I guess, the most difficult task for you as Commissioner of Public Safety?
Well, and I'll tell you, I'm not sure it's a task per se, but it's just an overwhelming feeling that I have 24/7. I'm responsible now directly for about 1,400 people. I worry every moment about their health and their safety. Obviously, the state troopers, those guys are out there every hour of every day putting themselves in harm's way. So I always worry about them, always have. But as I've gotten to know and understand our administrative side of the house, I worry about their well-being, about their health, and try to ensure that I'm doing everything I can do to give them a positive working environment. Because as you can imagine, in the DL sites, giving a young driver their DL test has got to be stressful. I'm teaching my 15-year-old son how to drive now. I tease, I had a full head of hair before I started teaching him how to drive. So we have folks in very high-pressure situations throughout the entire agency. On top of that, the most difficult thing to work with and work through is our budget, to ensure that we're on the right track, that we're not going to be in the same position that the health department was, that we're going to spend the taxpayer dollars appropriately and effectively and efficiently. So to stay on top of that is probably the most time consuming.
Well, let's talk about the Patrol Academy. According to my research, the 66th Patrol Academy will take place on January 23rd of 2019. Where does the time go? Is there room for more applicants, and how can they find out more information?
And you're right, and this is an exciting time for us every time we open that process and start an academy. There's always room. When I came on the patrol in 1991, there were 1,500 applicants for 40 positions. Throughout the past couple of years, it seems that number has declined a little bit. There's more opportunities for our young adults out there now, especially in the media world that now exists. So our numbers have been down a little bit. I think for this current academy that's going on now, we had 700 to 800 applicants. I'd like to see that number be 2,000. The higher the better for us. That allows us to pull the best out of that pool, if you will. So there's always room for applications. Always hit our website. Our public information office has a ton of information. We're pushing stuff out on social media now, where we've gotten into that arena. We even have our trainers at our.
A lot of us were forced to get out there.
I know, right? But we have folks in our academy that will talk to applicants individually to tell them how to physically train, how to mentally train to get ready for the process. So if someone comes to us, we'll get them what they need.
Many, many years ago, a trooper told me that a law enforcement career was not necessarily necessary to be an applicant for the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. And when he said that, I thought, that doesn't make sense. I thought you had to be groomed in, say, the military or groomed in law enforcement to be even considered for Highway Patrol. Not to put the guy on the spot or anything, but that was just a very thought-provoking topic. Does that still exist today?
Absolutely, 100 times over. In fact, I even recall back to my academy, one of my best buddies in the academy worked at a tire plant before he got on the Highway Patrol. And we see that today, a multitude of education levels and topics, different careers that folks have been in. So it's all about the person. It's about their heart, about their mind, their reasonings for wanting to do it. And you don't have to be a police officer to have that heart and soul. So that's what we're looking for.
Well, Commissioner, we're down to our last two questions of our visit today. If there's a young person that's watching our interview, and again, this will play back at different times and of the day and at different hours and so forth, if they're considering a career in law enforcement, what words of encouragement or wisdom would you share with them?
Well, and I tell you, it starts back with what my parents taught me. And I think it's a fail-safe rule, if you will. Have a great work ethic. And most importantly, treat others how you want to be treated. That will get you in about any door you want to get into. Now, on top of that, to prepare for a career with the Highway Patrol or any law enforcement, self-discipline, mental and physical health. Start those processes now. Start that training. As much education as you can get. I support that a million times over. You know, we talked earlier, I have twins that are in college right now. So education is big. Make the right decisions, and that's where that self-discipline comes into play. When you do have 1,000, 12, 1,500, hopefully up to 2,000 applicants, you have to stand out somehow. So make yourself stand out by doing the right thing would be my primary advice. And secondly, do it for the right reason. We will see instantly through your reasoning. You know, we've seen people who want to do it to drive the fast car, to wear the uniform, to have the guns, all those things that you see on TV that seem so neat. This job is so much more than that. It's about helping people. And if you have a heart and a spirit to help those that need to be helped, that can't help themselves, to protect those that can't protect themselves, that's what we're looking for in this profession. And it will shine through brightly every single time.
Commissioner Rhoades, we're at the end of our interview today, and we hope you'll come back to the Enid Television Network studios, of course, to our Enid community, and visit with us at any time. But I want to give you this opportunity to speak to the camera as we close out. It's in regard to, I guess, you're going to speak to the folks, you know. Forgive me from being from Perry, Oklahoma, the folks. But speak to our folks here in the Enid, Northwest Oklahoma, about public safety and anything that's on your heart, mind and heart.
Well, sure. And obviously with the Highway Patrol, our primary focus is traffic safety. It's general public safety throughout. But again, our primary mission being safety of folks out there driving. And I will always stress, do those things that we're taught way back in driver's ed. As a 27-year veteran out of the patrol, I see that those things work. Drive respectfully, drive defensively. Certainly don't drink and drive, don't text and drive. It's shocking how suddenly a bad event can occur. 99% of the collisions I've investigated throughout my career, people were surprised that it happened to them. They were minding their own business, doing their own thing, and next thing they know, they're potentially in a life and death situation. So it's about paying attention. It's about being respectful to each other. Again, we talked about it earlier. It's the Oklahoma way. Do that on the roadways too, and hopefully one day you guys can put me out of a job.
Well said. Commissioner, one of my first challenge coins was from a guy named Gary Adams. He was the chief of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and I remember he shared that challenge coins with me. I said, well, what's this all about? And when I looked at the coin, it was words, and the coin was really representing Gary and what he was all about. And after visiting with you today, I feel really good about the state of Oklahoma in regard to public safety, your heart for this community, and the heart for our state. So thank you for being here today. And I know the Enid folks certainly enjoy this. And we live stream this around the globe. So we're going to reach far outside Garfield County on our visit today. Thank you again for being here, Commissioner.
Steve, thank you very much. It was an honor.
And thank you for joining us here today on City Connections. It's my privilege each week to try to bring us an insightful guest, and we certainly have one with Commissioner Rusty Rhoades today. Thank you for being with us. I'm Steve Kime with the City of Enid. Until next time, make it a great day. Thanks, everyone.